I'm Catherine Devine. I'm the Chief Digital Officer here at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. And I'm here this morning with Tyrannosaurus rex, a dinosaur that is famous and that I'm sure that many of you are aware of. Here I want to talk today about how we've approached with our recent Explorer app, which was generously funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies, how we've approached the idea of supporting a serendipitous experience with digital. And serendipity is that wonder of, finding something in a museum or anywhere in life and not really knowing anything about it, but then being wowed by it in some way. But before I start, I want to talk a little bit about some of my own experiences here at the museum. So one of the great things that I found out when I was here, and this just really stayed with me and actually resonated with all of our visitors as well, is this idea that hippos and whales are actually related. And actually whales are more related to hippos than they are to sharks, which is kind of counterintuitive, but I found that fascinating. And this is core to the science here at the museum. It's this idea that everything in life is related. And when you think about it, whales used to walk on land and have very similar traits to hoofed animals. I don't know, I found that fascinating, and that is kind of, for me, a wow moment for time at the museum. One of the other things that wowed me was the trilobites. And it's in a case that's downstairs in the Grand Gallery. And I walk past it every evening after work as I left. And it kind of fades into the wall a little bit because they're kind of a beige color. And one day I stopped and I looked and I realized these things had lived 500 million years ago. And to me, I found that fascinating. That is such an enormous amount of time, compared even to dinosaurs. And this is what makes museum visits so wonderful, is when you discover these things that is not what you came to look for, which might be Tyrannosaurus rex behind me, but things that you didn't expect to discover. And so one of the things that I do is I like to put myself in the footsteps of someone who visits museums, but I'm too close to my own museum, and so I spend many weekends across the park at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And I try and put myself in the footsteps of a visitor there because I don't have that background. And one day I came across this fantastic story that the Met had done about a statue which is called Adam. And Adam there was an unfortunate accident about 10 years or so ago where it actually toppled off and smashed to pieces. And they had done a magnificent restoration job over 12 years. And when you look at this statue, you would never know that it had been restored from complete shatters. And I found that fascinating. This idea that there are people who are this skilled in the world who can put these things together, and they told this story really well digitally as well. And this is what we're trying to create with this app. When we've just relaunched about a month ago in the middle of March, is this idea of creating this sense of wonder and discovery as we go through. So in my role here, we often think about how to improve the visitor experience, and particularly with digital. So it's this idea of how do you take a physical experience and layer on some digital layers to it to create a really authentic feel and something that feels very natural to the visitor. So I want to take you through the history of how we've approached this with this app. So Explorer has a long history here at the museum. It originally launched back in 2010. And it was groundbreaking at the time because it did interior wayfinding. So the ability, something like Google Maps, the ability to get turn-by-turn directions as you navigate inside the building. And this is something that very few organizations have been able to do technically, and it's very difficult to do technically. That was our first foray into that, and that was enormously successful. With this, we've tried to take that intentional experience of I know where I want to go. I know I want to go to Tyrannosaurus rex. So here, pick directions to there and support this serendipitous experience that I was talking about, of this idea of I don't know what is in front of me and how can I find out more about it. And so the first version didn't answer that question of what is right in front of me. And so we have taken our wayfinding system and we've revamped it, and we now have 700 beacons throughout the museum that support interior wayfinding and location awareness. And so that allows us to answer the very simple question that people have, which is, what is this right in front of me? And so the app, as you open it now, the first thing it does is it knows where you are. It'll tell you you're in the Hall of Saurischian dinosaurs, as we are here. And it'll tell you that the thing right in front of you will be at the top of the scroll list. And as you scroll down, exhibits become further and further away. And so if those things inspire you and you still want to go see them, you can, but if not, you can just wander around the museum, and then whenever you pull out your phone, what is on top of the screen is what is right in front of you. And we call this contextualized experiences. And then we've taken this a step further. This is such a massive museum, and there's so much to see, and it's really hard to see it in one day. And so we really want to tailor things to people's interests. And so we get you to select some really fun interests, such as things with big wings, big creatures, dinos, etc., and then filter down that experience. So rather than showing you everything there is to see in the museum, we're bringing to your attention the things that are immediately interesting to you. And so we've taken this idea of, what's around me to what's around me that's interesting to me. And then we've really focused here on creating really fun mobile content, something that's really appropriate to a museum visit where you're here with your family and you want to talk about things that you've discovered with other people, such that, 5 subway cards is equivalent to the weight of the whale, those kinds of things that really make it fun. And this has been something that we've really focused on here, is how to create these really crisp lenses, lots of different perspectives, behind the scenes footage of when things were installed in the halls, and things that really just makes your visit fun. And then we've experimented with new interactive ways of creating an immersive experience. So one is called Avatar, and Avatar allows you to take an augmented reality experience and become the bear or become a dino, and explore all the dinos in this hall or all of the bears down in North American Mammals Hall, and discover things about them, such as their sense of smell. And the children really love this. This is something that's been really very successful. But our sleeper hit here has been the Tree of Life, and this is the core science of the museum, that everything in life is related. And so all of the mammals that you visit throughout the museum have a little Tree of Life lens on them, and allows you to answer this question, which is, what is most closely related? Is a whale most closely related to a shark or a hippo? And you can then start to build out the Tree of Life about how everything in life is related. And this has been super successful, and we're really thrilled with it. So with this content, we've really tried to anticipate the sorts of questions that people will want to ask. And we have, as in a great example here, the Wolf Diorama, which is famous and people love, but people have questions about it that they constantly ask. And this is where digital comes in and allows us to answer and anticipate those questions before people even ask them. So things like, what does a wolf sound like? And we have this great audio clip of what a wolf sounds like, which people love. And how do they build that? Because in this diorama, the wolves are somewhat suspended. It appears suspended, and then there's a shadow, and that shadow is actually painted on. It's not actually a real shadow. And then this is the thing that some people find fascinating. So with this experience, we've really tried to go for, everyone has a very different experience. And we call this a contextualized, personalized experience. So it's a basis of where you're standing in the museum. If you're standing in front of Tyrannosaurus Rex or the Alaskan brown bear, you're going to see something different. And what you're interested in, so whether you're interested in things that are dinos as opposed to things that are sea creatures, you're going to see different lists. And this is what we call in the industry a contextualized, personalized experience. And this is something we've really experimented with here, and are very thrilled with the results. Finally, the last thing we did is we focus a lot on what are the pain points of a visitor experience, and how can we solve some of those pain points to just make the science really come to life, and less about the logistical nature of visiting such a busy museum. And so here at this museum, people go to see multiple shows. They might go and see the space show, and then they might go and see the Dinosaurs Among Us exhibit, and these are all timed at certain times. So they might have an itinerary that looks like space show at 2:30, 3:30 at Dinosaurs Among Us. And the challenge here is how do I get there, and when do I need to be there? And so we've used your ticket here through Tessitura. We've used your ticket to actually bring you notifications about where you need to be and when you need to be there. And then providing those turn-by-turn directions that I talked about earlier, like Google Maps, to get you there. And this has really made the experience in the museum more pleasant for people, because that's a point of pain for people, as to how to get around and get around through a large crowd. So to wrap up, we've really focused in here on how to bring a digital layer to a physical experience and create that integrated physical digital experience. And so I would really, invite, as I wrap up here, invite all Tessitura members to really think about how you can create that integrated physical digital experiences in your own performing arts and cultural arts institutions. Thank you.